Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Renewal Podcast. I believe this is episode 3.
3.
Yeah, and we got you back on.
Back on.
And
ready.
we just wanted to have just a brief conversation. We have our special guest, Chloe Eden,
Yes.
with us. Hopefully she does well. If not, we're just going to keep going back and forth, and we'll see how it goes. So let's just jump in, Kel. Like, tell me how you doing. How was our day? Like, what did we do today? What is life been looking like lately for us?
Yeah, no, I feel like life has been great, busy, full in so many ways. Today's just one of those days where Friday, I think most Fridays you go and meet with Pastor Mike.
Yeah.
And today I got to tag along. So we got to go in, get some coffee at Take Your Seat.
Well, hold on, because no one really knows unless they're part of our community who Pastor Mike is. So who is Pastor Mike?
You elaborate.
Well, I try to, on a regular basis, connect with my pastor.
Yes.
And he has become, I'm going to use this language, a spiritual father to me.
Yes.
And it's important for me, for my soul, to be pastored.
Yeah.
And to have someone that I am being completely vulnerable with, that I have allowed to speak into my life, to correct, rebuke, encourage, edify. So that's important for me. And that's something that really for the last couple of years that I've had, and it's just been game changer. I think everybody needs to have a mentor.
Yeah.
Right? I think everyone needs to have somebody speaking into their life. And so Fridays, usually we do that, not all the time. Yeah. And then this time it's like you were able to come. We got our girls watched, Lenya and Zoe. And so then we met with Pastor Mike this morning.
So good.
Yeah.
It was a really fruitful conversation. For me specifically, it was a really good conversation because I don't always get to come into these spaces and places and have those conversations with you because I'm doing mom life. I'm with the girls. I can't always step away, which is okay. That's the season that I'm in, and I am fully embracing it. But when I get to, it's really sweet and try to make the most out of it. So we left, I think we were there for a while, and it was really a good time of just addressing, the notion, we talk about it so much in conversation with people doing life. You start to realize and recognize as people are sharing their heart and their soul and their story, places in their story where the enemy, the deceiver, all the different ways that we can call the name of just the devil and what he's placed and little seeds of lies in our life and stories. So we sat down today and got to address some of those for me.
Yeah. Well, really quick, let's explain what the devil, the deceiver, we know the devil or the deceiver, the liar, all throughout scripture, especially you see it in Genesis 1.
Yes.
The serpent lying to Eve, right? And Adam. And then Jesus is the one who gave us the language for that, right? Yeah. So Jesus in the scriptures, in the Gospels, is speaking about the devil to the Pharisees, and he says, quote, "You belong to your father,
the father of lies,
and he is a liar. You belong to the devil, your father, he's a liar, and when he speaks his native language, and it's to lie."
Yes.
So, Pastor Mike has really taken that to another level for us, and just understanding ministry and life and soul care, and how it's very simple. There's truth, and then there's lies, and then that also was coming from a place, this was probably about 2-3 years ago, where Pastor Mike was really explaining to me, and I had got done finishing a book from John Mark Comer titled Live No Lies. And I would highly recommend every disciple of Jesus read that book.
Yeah.
He really digests the teaching behind it.
Yeah.
So when we sit with Pastor Mike, it's usually, so where's the lie?
Soul care.
And where's the truth?
Yeah.
And what does Jesus say about it? So, yeah. But go on with what you were saying.
Just saying that was the conversation on the table today, was for me addressing things and little seeds of lies that have been planted for a long time. That almost, I think, what you start to learn, what I've learned in this process, just going through this with myself, is you start to almost not realize the lies that the enemy's placed in your life because you've become so comfortable living around them and noticing how to navigate and do life to where it's like, oh, this is just a part of, and here's the deception, I think, of the enemy. This is just a part of my cadence or my character, or not even character, my personality. Like I'm just not as inclined to this as I am to something else.
This is just who I am.
This is just who I am, right? A conversation that you can so easily tell yourself because lies can be planted so deeply rooted in your upbringing, in your younger years, when you are figuring out who God has created you to be. Of course, there's going to be opposition in that and things that come your way to where you can sit and make a decision. I'm going to go this way or I'm going to go that way. Yeah. And it's in your formation that all those things really start to take place and take root. So today we got to address some of those for me specifically on just notions of comparison conversation and where those stem from, and really finding a trail of like, when did this start? When did this begin? And what I really love about sitting and having those conversations is, one, it's very vulnerable, and it takes a lot of humility to like bare your soul in a way that like maybe for a while it's just been so deeply hidden. You're like, I don't even want to go there because I don't know what's going to come from it. But humbling in the sense of like, if you're willing to go there, like exposing the lies of the enemy and then replacing them with truth of, what does God say about this? How have you been created? Now taking off and putting on. And we talk about that a lot at Koin. Like, you're taking off and you're putting on the things of Christ. This faith, blessing, purpose, all of these things. But you sometimes feel the clash of that in your identity, because I think it always goes back to identity. When we're dealing with issues or things in our soul, it's like, well, where did this start? Where did this stem?
For sure.
And I'm starting to really learn that in a beautiful way. But what are your thoughts? Because you were sitting with me, by my side, as we unraveled.
Well, I wanted to just sort of like preference this, even around this idea of renewal, this idea of transformation, this idea of stepping out of the old and stepping into the new. This is probably why I love the name so much.
Yeah.
Is because renewal hits on transformation. It hits on the truth against the lies. It hits on the old and the new.
Yeah.
So Romans 12 says this, verse 2, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So don't be conformed to the patterns of this world. The patterns of this world come in lies, right? Yes. And they come in the deception of like through sin, through brokenness, through pain, through grief. Mom and dads that want to do well, but maybe have had their own lies they're living, right? Friends that want to do well, but they have their own internal dialogue they're speaking. Yeah. Pastors, siblings, people around us. Like, when you start using this language of understanding, like, okay, there is a certain pattern of this world. Yes. And we cannot be conformed to that. But what is like God say about it, and what is the truth? And in order to get there, we have to be willing to renew our mind. Yeah.
We've said before, taking a machete to the old thoughts, in a sense, to be able to create a new pathway for.
Yeah. I'm running a blank on the name of the book that I recommended about neurobiology and neuroscience. I'll have to figure it out, and maybe I'll put it in the comment section.
Add it in the link, yeah.
I told you to read it. You read it too.
I have read it.
Maybe like two chapters though, for being honest. But anyway, the whole premise of it, I know his last name is Bennett. and he is a neurobiologist.
Yeah.
And but he's a Christian.
Yeah.
And he sits and does, therapy with people. And his perspective is like I really was able to understand Romans 12:2 in a whole nother light, because it's understanding that we have neural pathways in our brain that can go back to a memory of pain or trauma, or we think of a person in our childhood. There's an instant memory. There's an instant feeling.
Yeah. It brings emotion to the surface.
There's an emotional attachment to a particular memory.
Yes.
And oftentimes if the memory comes with pain, then that's the association, right? So I think Sam in high school, there's a memory I have, right? Yeah. Or there's an emotion that I have, right? Mm-hmm. Or this person did me wrong. There's so it's a neural pathway, like wavelength in my brain. And so what he says is like, you have to allow Jesus to create a new neural pathway.
Yeah.
And it's like your brain's like a jungle. And he, Jesus, the mighty counselor, will give you a machete. And he, when he speaks his truth from this based memory of trauma, pain, lie, a new memory is created from it. So that way, when you think of this moment, it's reestablished. Renewed. It's renewed, not from the pattern of this world, but from the pattern of truth.
Yeah.
From the reality of truth and what God says about us. Then when we're healed from that, we can discern God's will.
Yeah.
We can think and process. We can walk in freedom. We can walk in renewal and transformation.
Yes.
So that's in a lot of ways what soul care is at a deep level of
a lot of listening
of truth and lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, soul care is a lot of that. It's active listening.
Active listening.
So what did you learn about yourself today, Kel? Here, you can hand it to me.
What did I learn about myself today? Man, I learned that for far too long, I have allowed a particular lie to navigate the way I view things, places, community, just the way I function here in this space, in this world, and around with people. The majority of our life, it's not just, hey, you're a monk hibernating over there by yourself. It's dwelling and being around and being surrounded by people. Yeah. So I think the story that we give ourselves here and now will dictate the relationships and stuff that we carry out with people.
Yeah, and even like I think the biggest thing that I learn about myself every time I go through just a moment of healing is the power of being known and being known well in an environment of love.
Yes.
And not in an environment of shame or condemnation or judgment, but just simply being loved by the person in front of you.
Yeah.
I walk away feeling more known by God.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I was first known by this person in front of me.
Yeah.
That cares tremendously for my soul. And I think that's why mentorship is really important. That's why, again, I'll use this language, that's why spiritual father fathering, spiritual father is really healthy and important when it's healthy and not weird and not authoritative. Like it's just that can get very weird, and I'm hesitant to use that language because it's just been so jaded. Yeah. But when it's healthy, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And so we all desire to be fathered. We all desire to be mothered. Mm-hmm. And we get this language from Paul. He says, many of you, are sort of like orphans and you don't have a father, And he says that but you're children, you're my children. Yeah. Like Paul uses that language, which is very different. Yeah. But anyway, I know Chloe's all over the place, so maybe we can land the plane sooner. But what do you think? Why do you think this is so important for people?
I think it's so important because you go through this and you are exposing the enemy and his tactics and his ways And when you do that, one, you're shedding light on things that need to be restored, renewed, healthy, as God has intended them for your life, because he's the one who's created you, right? So then it brings healing. And from healing, there's restoration. And from that, you are walking in a fullness that before was not how your stride or your step was. And I think with that, there's deeper revelation, deeper understanding. Not only, I'll speak for myself, me understanding in relationship to the Father, my relationship, but also understanding more of my identity and my purpose that I am carrying out here and now, and being instructed from a place of being fully known and a place of health that is continuously shaping and remolding the way I view things and relationships and people, right? We talk about the potter and the clay, like we are the clay. Like God is the potter, we're the clay. Now us allowing him to mold and shape us as he has intended us to be. So it's like I can't choose to be a vase in the sense of potter and clay terminology if God has intended me to be a cup. Like he has crafted me specifically in a way that he sees, and it's now learning and understanding my identity and how he has created me. And there's so much freedom in that.
Yes.
So much revelation, so much fruit that can come to then be on mission for his kingdom.
Yeah. The reason why I think there's freedom is because when the lies are dissipated about any given person, then you can begin to understand how God has uniquely created and crafted you without hearing the lie of any given person speaking over you in that voice, right internally. Then you can finally walk in your own confidence and your own calling that is going to be unique for you, for me.
Yeah.
But the problem is, many of us haven't walked and understood the lies and the truth. And that's where our identity is jaded. That's where our view of the Father in our life is jaded. But when all of that is cleared, and I just have the truth of what God says of me, uniquely to me, I can now walk in my purpose. I can now walk in my destiny. I can walk in my identity, of which the Father speaks of over me. And I'm so passionate about this idea of like calling and destiny and identity and purpose. And before we even get there, we have to talk about the lies.
Yeah, you have to address them.
We have to address the inner voice that a person's been speaking.
Yes.
And we've been pastoring long enough. I'll just speak for myself. I've been walking with people long enough to where if I have a 30-minute conversation with someone and I'm asking the right questions, I can begin to identify where the lies are.
Yes.
And oftentimes the person isn't aware of that.
Absolutely.
And if they're not willing to find freedom, if they're not humble enough, if they're not vulnerable enough to like open up their heart, then what's unfortunate is the lie will just continue to perpetuate.
Yeah.
And it gets worse and worse and worse until, in the words of Comer, the lie becomes a truth. Right? So I'll give an example. If you're a young girl or a young guy, it doesn't matter, and you're 6, 7 years old, and you look yourself in the mirror hypothetically and say like, you're just not good enough. Like you don't have any friends. And you tell yourself that for 10, 15 years, one day you will wake up being the type of person that doesn't have friends.
Yeah.
Because you spoke that lie over yourself. And then this goes back to the biblical principle and truth of like, words are powerful. Words prophesy, right? Yeah. Speak to these bones, son of man, God told Ezekiel, and prophesy to the breath, prophesy to the ruach, prophesy life into these dead, dry bones. So if I can prophesy life, I can also prophesy death. And, in that context of prophesying, it's speaking something that is not here into what the reality is of the moment. Yeah. So anyway, we had a really good conversation, and I think Chloe's over us just chit-chatting. But I want to have a part 2 to this of like, man, I want to talk about destiny. I want to talk about destiny and calling, and I want to talk about the reason why that's so important, and I want to talk about the uniqueness of a person. And maybe we can do a case study on you.
I would love that.
And
Let's do it.
But anyway, gosh, I'm just so grateful for this space. Thanks, Kel, for being able to be here.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you
willing.
for Chloe for being patient.
Flexible.
And then shout out, I gotta put this plug in here. Shout out to Renewal.
Yes.
Got the cap, and you're wearing the jacket.
Yeah, I took over your jacket.
Yeah, and there's just so much
great.
meaning behind it and purpose, and I just love it so much. The name is dope. It's not corny. There's a lot of corny stuff out there, in my opinion, around the Christian space. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, grateful for you, Chloe. We love you, and thanks for joining in. We will see you next time on the Renewal Podcast. And there's so much beautiful conversation ahead. We'll see you then.